Good evening and welcome to the Town of Cary Planning and Zoning Board meeting. Thank you for joining us tonight. I now call this meeting to order. Our board clerk, Julie Mitchell, will take roll call for this evening.
Thank you, Chair. Chris Johnson is not with us this evening, but I will read into the record who is present. We have Sean McAndrew, Mike Roselli, Jessica McClure, John Sorrell, Stephen Crutchfield, Don Hamilton, Mary Jo Hill, Andy Coe, and Jeff Moncrief. Thank you.
The Cary Community Plan will continue to be the guiding document for this board. Our role is to function as citizen advisors to the Town Council, who will make the final decision on all rezoning activity. Your citizen opinions based on the Cary Community Plan document play a very important role in advising our town leaders. While this is a public meeting, it is not a public hearing. There is no opportunity for the public to speak during this meeting. If you have comments about any of these items, we encourage you to reach out to the staff by email or phone, or to the council directly through email or during the public speaks out portion of any regularly scheduled town council meeting. These meetings may be streamed live on the Town of Cary website and will be posted to YouTube. All past planning and zoning board meetings are available to view on YouTube. The first activity for tonight is, would someone please make a motion to adopt tonight's agenda?
Motion to adopt.
Someone second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The next item would be a motion to approve the meeting minutes for our April 24th meeting. Could I get a motion to approve the meeting minutes?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Our first item on the agenda is Act 29 Minor and Technical Amendments. Anna Redling, Principal Planner, will share the presentation. There is no applicant because this request is for minor and technical amendments to Cary's ordinances. Board members will have an opportunity to ask questions following the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, and good evening, Board. Tonight I'm presenting Act 29 amendments to the Town Code, the Land Development Ordinance, and the Community Appearance Manual. As you know, staff brings forward two types of Act amendments. Some are implementing a policy or plan initiative, such as one you saw a few months ago that updated stormwater regulations. Others are technical and minor in nature, which are intended to make updates and clarifications without changing town policy or regulatory intent. Tonight, these Act 29 amendments are of that variety, the technical and minor. Act 29 includes amendments to the Town Code to update the Historic Preservation Commission membership ordinance, miscellaneous amendments to the LDO to make updates, clarifications, and corrections, and minor updates to Cary's Community Appearance Manual. I'll provide a brief overview of these proposed amendments. First, item A is the Town Code amendments. These updates align the description of the HPC's membership qualifications with the exact wording in the state statutes, and also allow Town Council in its discretion to appoint an alternate member. And next is item B, which is a group of miscellaneous LDO amendments. These amendments, 1, update references throughout the LDO to reflect the most recently adopted planning and design documents. 2, reinforce that Cary's official zoning map is made up of 2 maps, the base zoning map and the zoning overlay map. And 3, clarify existing town center related terminology and standards. These amendments clarify standards for the expansion and reuse of non-conforming residential uses in town center, correct the date when detached residential uses in some town center subdistricts became non-conforming, reiterate that non-conforming residential uses, once converted to a conforming use, can't be converted back to a residential use, replace the terminology front setback in the town center dimensional standards table with roadway setback to be consistent with terminology in the LDO's other dimensional tables. And it removes the note from a table which is no longer relevant due to an earlier amendment. And 4, the LDO updates also include updating a handful of definitions and removing obsolete and unneeded definitions. And finally, clarification that when any existing legally permitted single-unit detached dwelling encroaches into a currently required setback, a building permit may be issued for an alteration or expansion of that dwelling as long as it doesn't increase the encroachment. And then finally, item C is a series of updates to Cary's Community Appearance Manual that align vegetation documentation requirements with the LDOs, resolve text inconsistencies and conflicts, cleans up graphics, annotations, and other references to other documents, aligns planting standards for stormwater control measures with the state's requirements, corrects some inadvertent errors made with earlier updates, and makes minor text corrections and clarifications. Town Council held a public hearing on April 13th. No speakers came forward, and Council had no questions or comments regarding these amendments. Since the public hearing, staff has not made any changes to the proposed amendments. And how do these Act 29 amendments relate to the Imagine Cary Community Plan? Because that's the business of this board. The plan, as we know, this is just a reminder slide, provides us with a vision. It's created with citizen input and adopted by council. It helps us with the growth, development, and service delivery. And the LDO gives us the standards and regulations needed to implement that vision. Implementation requires an up-to-date LDO with clear ordinances that keep us on strong legal footing, and staff finds that these Act 29 amendments are consistent with that purpose. This concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. And Alan Davis, who's our Urban Design Manager, is also here if you have questions about the Community Appearance Manual updates.
Okay, thank you. We will start down. Sean, any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Mike?
No questions.
Nope,
No questions.
no questions.
No questions either.
No, I did notice it looked like it said Act 26 instead of 29
Oh,
on the
sorry.
materials perhaps,
Okay.
in one point, but
Okay, thanks for that.
Yep.
Sorry about that.
Page 10.
Okay. Page 10 of the staff report?
Yeah, of your presentation.
Oh,
I'm
the
sorry,
presentation
chart
you just went through, yeah.
Okay.
My bad.
That's good.
On this one right here, is this changing? Is this like, I didn't know if this was like, is this a neighborhood setting or a commercial setting? You know, because I know you can't have encroachments like in a neighborhood if someone's adding onto their house or
Right.
whatever. Is this
It's-
changing that or
it's-
just
It's not changing it.
displaying it differently?
It's explaining it because our Chapter 10 is called nonconformant, it's about nonconformances. There are two separate places in Chapter 10, and one place says, when things have already, the LDO has been updated over the decades. And in 2003, a brand-new LDO replaced one that had been there, but it had been updated a couple of times, major updates in previous decades. So in the nonconformance section, it says things like, and with those updates, sometimes our zoning categories changed, and with that, sometimes setbacks changed with those zonings. So it says, if something has been made nonconforming by the adoption of this ordinance, then it's legal, it's just nonconforming. And if you want to expand, and this is really applying to residential, actually specifically residential single-unit dwellings. If you want to expand something that was made nonconforming by this ordinance, you can expand it such that it increases that encroachment, but you could perhaps add a porch to the other side, as long as you're not violating any current setbacks. And I think another part of Chapter 10 makes it clear it's not just things made nonconforming by this ordinance, it's things that were legally permitted in the past, because this ordinance, our ordinances have changed more than once. So all this amendment does is makes it clear that if it was legally permitted in the past, whether it was under this ordinance or the one before it or the one before it, and we have, of course, we have records that indicate that, then when you come in and you say, oh, gee, this currently is encroaching in our current setbacks, we're not going to say, sure, you can encroach even more, but if you have a building permit that you want for another part of the dwelling, and you're not increasing that encroachment, then we can allow that. And it's just clarifying that it wasn't just things made non-conforming by the adoption of this very latest ordinance, it's any of the ordinances before that.
I mean, I know our board didn't get in that slowly, what is that, the zoning board of adjustment that really cares about that a lot.
Right.
And I
And
just
it
know how-
requires that if you do something, if you expand a non-conforming building, then you need to go to the zoning board of adjustment, except it gives us an exception, and it's for single-unit dwellings, residential dwellings, that were legally permitted in the past. So it keeps, it's really a narrow group of buildings that were some of our earliest neighborhoods that now might have a different zoning setback than was approved before. It keeps them from having to go to a zoning board of adjustment for something that's not going to increase the encroachment, but maybe they just need a building permit to, put a screen porch on or something like that.
Okay, that makes sense. Thanks. Any other thoughts or questions from anyone? Thank you. In that case, would someone like to make a motion for Act 29 minor and technical amendments? I think we have a printout, or there they are on the screen.
Okay, I will move that the board find Act 29 amendments to the Town Code and Land Development Ordinance to be consistent with the comprehensive plan and all other applicable plans for the reasons set forth in the staff report, presentation, and discussion by the Planning and Zoning Board.
Thank you. Would someone like to second?
Second.
Thank you. Mary Jo, your thoughts on?
Well, my thoughts are just that they've done a lot of work. Thank you, Anna, for all that behind the scenes, trying to stay compliant with changes in the way the regulations read and have the least amount of impact on people who might be affected. And so regulatory-wise, we need to keep the plans up to date, and this seems like the way to do that.
Was that you, John, this second?
I think it was three of us.
Go ahead. What are your thoughts?
Just echo that.
Okay. Anyone else have any comments? No? Having no further comments, all in favor of the motion that's been put forward, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item is going to be led by Cassie Schumacher Georgiopoulos, Director of Community Projects. She's going to be discussing some updates to the Imagine Cary Community Plan with us tonight.
Thank you, Chairman Crutchfield, and thank you, members of the board, for allowing me to come back to give you another presentation on another project that we're working on, and I know something that's near and dear to all of your hearts, right? The Imagine Cary Community Plan. So I'm going to give an overview of where we are and where we're going, and then I'll invite Scott Berry, our Chief Development Officer, to come up and field any questions that you might have. And I'll participate in that too, Scott. Before we dive in, I just want to remind us why we plan. And so planning initiatives have created the systems and the processes that make Cary the great community that it is today. It's by capturing the vision of our community and our leaders that keeps Cary as an action-oriented community that wants to keep thriving. And I just want to explain this graphic here. Has anyone ever seen the graphic to your right before?
I have not.
So this is what we call the ARC. Mike's nodding his head. This is what we call the ARC. And we use this in our Cary culture today to talk about where do we want to be. And if I asked you, does Cary want to be on the top of the ARC or on the side of the ARC? You'd probably say on the top of the ARC, or I'd hope you'd say that. And there might be times where we wiggle back and forth in what we do, but Cary's always striving to be at the top of the ARC. And that's why we establish these planning initiatives and do the work that we do. And even Cary, through our planning processes, not just wanting to stay at the top of the ARC, but really, I did that earlier today, looking at what's the next ARC and where are we going in the future. And that's why we go through these processes to update our plans and to look at our different, and take on the initiatives through our different planning processes. All right, so let's start talking about the Cary 2040 Community Plan, or as I introduced it, the Imagine Cary Community Plan. You might also hear it called just the Imagine Cary Plan or the Community Plan. If you've heard any of those references before, we're talking about the same plan. So just want you to know that we might call it many things. I think our preferred calling of it is Imagine Cary, but just know we're all talking about Cary's comprehensive plan. And this plan was adopted in 2017, so it's about 6 years old now. And this plan establishes our long-range vision and policies for Cary's built environment, as well as how we want to serve our citizens. Creating the plan did take some time, so about a 5-year process to create the Cary Community Plan that we have in front of us today. And citizen participation was key to the development of this plan. And we also strive to have this level of participation and citizen engagement in our other planning initiatives moving forward. So if we look inside the plan, what does the plan say? So this is the foundations chapter, and the purpose of the Cary Community Plan is to articulate the town's vision and values and set a course of achieving Cary's desired future. And if we just jump down a paragraph, the vision is that Cary will continue to be the model of a highly regarded and well-managed community. The interests of residents and businesses will be at the forefront of policies and public investment that foster sustained prosperity. So even 6 years later, I think these visions and the purpose of this plan hold true to how we want to achieve the vision and strive to continue to have Cary be the great community it is. And just looking further into the plan, I know I'm preaching to the choir a little bit here. You're all
okay.
very familiar.
Good to get a refresher.
But the plan does have 9 chapters. So we have the foundation chapter, the live chapter, work, shop, engage, shape, move, serve, and act. And within the act chapter, that establishes how we're going to implement the plan, which is really where we've been these past 6 years implementing the Cary Community Plan. You all have played a role in that through the cases that you hear. And now we're at a time where the plan in the ACT chapter also says we need to update the Cary Community Plan in a 5-year and then in a 10-year increment. So we're at that interim update for the plan. And that means minor updates to the plan and looking back at what we've done. So I'll kind of go through that in a moment. So with this interim update that we're doing, we're not changing the structure of the plan. The community plan is going to look very much as how it does today, but we are going to add a couple of things. So we're going to add that preface, so really honoring the work that we've done over the past 6 years, the accomplishments that we've achieved. We'll incorporate policies from newly adopted plans, like the housing plan. We'll also be incorporating a new chapter. So that's going to be one of the bigger changes. We're going to be incorporating an enriched chapter, which covers the environment. And so you've all seen through the rezoning cases an acknowledgement of environmental conditions and how it's achieving the SERV chapter today. So you'll find a lot of those environmental initiatives or policies in the SERV chapter. We're actually going to pull those out and add to an enriched chapter more of how Cary is accomplishing environmental initiatives, as well as our impact for climate action. I skipped over the Engage chapter. We're also in the process of updating our Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Resources Master Plan, as well as our Historic Preservation Master Plan. And with those updates, we'll be updating the Cary Community Plan. And then finally, we'll update the SERV chapter. If you think about it, how many of you have called 311 in the past, or since 2020 when it was established? Well, we didn't have 311, right? We didn't have 311 in 2017 when the plan was adopted. So acknowledging how we're serving our citizens today is different than it was in the past. And then finally, what's the process for updating the plan? So council approved the process I'm just going to go over here really quickly at the council staff retreat back in February. And so we will be creating a draft plan and then coming to the boards and commissions for feedback on that plan. We'll then take that plan, the draft plan, to a public hearing before town council. It'll follow our typical public hearing. So you all have a role in approving that draft or that interim update to Imagine Cary, and then it'll finally go back to town council for adoption. And with that, I'll invite Scott up. His name's on here. If you have any questions, please reach out to him. But also, we'd welcome any feedback or questions you have tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you. I guess can I talk in here? Oh, I can.
Yep.
That's great. That's the magic of upstairs. You know, you can't invite interim updates. You can't invite 2,000 plus people back. And really, what Cassie said, the plan's staying the same. We're just going to add some key features, really call out some other things that have changed in the past, stuff you've been seeing. And I can think of, you know, no better board to help us with that than this board. So excited to be here to talk about it. And you don't have to have questions.
Yeah.
But that's not going to be possible. We want, well, I think we all do, right? We would like to participate with this process. I do remember the first process, and, you know, that book is just invaluable to what we do. And I think we're very interested in what's going to be in the environmental section, especially. I think that's where all the changes are. I mean, everything that's come up in the last few years with that, and then just the infrastructure and how that's going to be changing. And, you know, we got some really smart people here that I think they could really help contribute to your work efforts as you go forward with this. So, yeah, please use us.
Great.
Thank you. And that is our plan, to come back to you as a draft is created, to get your feedback and have you review that. So this isn't the first and the only time you'll see us about this process. We'll be coming back to you most likely later this fall.
Is that the goal? Is this a this year's thing, or what is your?
You can see our book up there. It says winter 2023-24. So yeah, that's the goal.
Okay.
We didn't put a date, though. We didn't.
I don't blame you.
It's a range.
In true fashion, we will give it the time that it needs.
I mean, this is a big deal. I mean, if you look how long the original book, I mean, this is just, I got it, it's an update, but still, once it's in there, it's in there. And everyone refers to it.
Most everyone.
Yeah.
Are there any key, I mean, you mentioned, I forget exactly which ones, but like air quality, you know, roads, are there some specific environmental concerns that will get more focused than others? Like as you've carved out, or kind of just what's driving the need, one, to separate it, and then two, are there some specific things that you want to drive home with that policy that just we could be aware of?
I think just raising the importance of the environment and our response to the need to establish policies around climate action. So if you look at the policies in the SERV chapter, probably 8 out of the 12 are all environmental policies. And we also have multiple plans around the environment and around environmental initiatives that are in the works right now. So we have a climate action plan that's currently underway. The Count Me In Cary initiative, if you've seen that posted on social media, that is part of that environmental action plan that Cary is creating right now. We also have the urban forestry master plan. We're doing a solid waste master plan. And so there's a lot of different planning initiatives for how we're going to approach future environmental initiatives and how we're taking care of our citizens and serving the citizens as well as protecting the environment. And so I think all of those, and Cary has had a really strong environmental program for some time, and now really giving it honor and the value that it deserves with its own chapter in the plan.
Yeah, I think that's key, right? SERV right now is focused internally to the town's own efforts, and then there's some external that you could read into it, or some external. This has 2 chapters. There's probably a lot of overlap, as Cassie was alluding to, that will be in both of those.
Sure.
Anyone? Any other thoughts?
No, appreciate the update.
No, it's good.
We'll be back.
Yes, thank you so much for your time tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think that is the end of our current business. We do not have any new business. So having said that, thank you for coming tonight, and our meeting is now adjourned.